Thank you everyone for being here. So every year, my name is Farida Pawan. I'm a professor in learning and design upstairs. If you want to join us, our conference is happening right outside. I'm also the global and international engagement person here, and graduate, and my graduate assistant is Sulian Mijiati. And the person over there is Scott Whiskey, who is the magic behind all the technology that you have here in this building. And so, one of the things that we try to do every year is that we try to celebrate International Women's Day a bit early, because International Women's Day is on March 8th. And, but we know March 8th, most of us will not be here, but the celebration continues. But while you're here, we wanted to kind of be able to capture the experience with you. I am from Malaysia originally, and so International Women's Day means a lot to me because I got a scholarship through International Women's Day to pursue my education. So it's quite meaningful, and for me, quite empowering. And so the stories that you will hear, the theme of International Women's Day this year is investing women, investing in women, investing in strength and resilience. It's not a very sexy theme, but you know, what I capture there is strength and resilience. Yeah, and so the stories that you will hear today are exactly those. Stories of women, of their strength, of their resilience, and women all over the world. And so we are very fortunate and honored today that we have storytellers who are geniuses of their craft, who actually are from here, from Bloomington. They are members of the Bloomington Storytellers Guild, and if you haven't been in one of those, you should attend. There's such gifted storytellers in there, and you know, we have two people who are really, really, like I said, geniuses of the craft. They lead the guild, and in a moment you'll see why. So without further ado, allow me to introduce Hattie Callison, one of the storytellers, and Ginny Ritchie, the other one. I'll let them introduce themselves. But again, thank you, and to you all, my sisters, happy International Women's Day. To our allies, I'm glad you are with us. We love you as well.
Shall we knight you?
I have been introduced to a new technology. A microphone you wear around your neck. And it magically picks your voice up. Isn't that amazing? I am constantly blown away. And this is a technology that can really enhance storytelling. I want my own. When I began looking for a story of resilience, of courage, of, what was the other word?
Strength.
Strength, yes, strength. I thought of a story that I told years and years and years ago, and it came from an old book, this one, published in, I think, 1958. I was And this story was collected by two educators who went to Ethiopia to write textbooks. And in the course of writing the textbooks, they went everywhere in the country collecting stories and information. And in the Highlands, they collected this story from an old Somali man that they visited in his house in life. And this is the story he told them. A woman from the Highlands once married a man from the Lowlands. He was a merchant. He went from place to place with his wares, and he was a widower. Now this woman was delighted to marry him and to go to have a home of her own, and she was especially delighted because he had a young son from his first wife, and she had always wanted to have a young son. And when she met him, she wanted to hug him and kiss him "No, you're not. My mother's dead. You'll never be my mother." And he ran out of the house. So what did she do? She made food. She made all the good things that she knew people loved to eat, and especially children loved to eat. And she spread out a feast, and he would eat none of it. Not a bite. Oh, so she took his robes, and she mended them, and she embroidered plants and fish and animals on them. And he wore them out, and he ran into the bushes until the thorns ripped the fabric. She bought him new shoes. He went to the muddy banks of the river and ruined them. She heard him cry at night, and she thought, he is so unhappy, but he won't let me comfort him. She thought, I need help. Now, in that time, in that place, there was a wise person, and you went to that wise person if you needed help. Sometimes they helped with medicine. Sometimes they helped with good advice. Sometimes they helped with a little magic. That is what I need. I need a magic potion that will make the boy love me. So she went to the wise one, and she explained all this. Now, she said, will you make me a potion or a powder or something to give him so he will love me? Said the wise one. I can't do that. But you will have to bring me a special ingredient. Anything, she said. Anything. I want that boy to love me as I love him. Then, said the wise one, you must bring me 3 whiskers plucked from the chin of a living lion. A lion? And you can have no help in doing it, they said. None at all. You must do it yourself. Where will I even find a lion? Oh, said the wise one. Beyond the fields and the river, there is a black rock desert, and there's an old lion who lives out there. How will I approach a lion? They said, I don't know. I know powders and potions and magic. I know people. But I do not know lions. I just know this is what you must do. I'll do it, she said. And she went away, and she thought, he said it was an old lion. Perhaps it is so decrepit that I can take a staff and hold it off while I pluck the whiskers. So she took the strongest staff she could. She went through the fields, across the river. She went into the Black Rock Desert, and she looked up, and there was the lion at some distance on top of a large rock. And he was gorgeous. He was gold with the dark mane and the dark ruffle down his belly. And when he saw her, he stood and he roared so that the ground vibrated under her feet, and she thought, this is no lion I can hold off with a staff. In fact, she dropped the staff. She ran home. What could I do? What should she do? She thought, I can make a trap. But I do not know how to make a trap. I could sneak up on him while he is sleeping, but lions sleep very lightly. And she thought, and she had an idea. And the very next day, she took a bundle of fresh meat. She went out into the Black Rock Desert, and there the lion saw her and stood and roared, and she went as far as she dared, and then she put the meat down on a rock, and then she quickly backed away and hid behind a bush. The lion leapt from his perch. He bounded across the desert. He came to the rock, and he stopped, and he ate the meat. And when he was done, he went away, and he did not kill her. So the next day she went back, and she did the same thing. She left the meat. She retreated, the lion came, ate it, and again he did not kill her. And this went on day after day, and when it was week after week, she began to put down the meat and to retreat and stand beside a bush where he could see her. And the lion came bounding across the desert and devoured the meat. And he knew she was there, because as he approached the meat, he would give a little growl, like, stay away from this meat. But as time went on, she became bolder, and she would put the meat down and she would retreat, but not quite as far. And then it would happen again, she would put the meat down and she would retreat, but not quite as far. And so slowly she came closer and closer and closer until the day came when she set the meat on the rock. The lion stood, leapt down from his perch, bounded across, and she stood right beside the rock. The lion gave her a growl as he approached, and she thought, maybe that's a friendly growl. And he snatched up the meat, and he began to rend it with those huge teeth and those powerful jaws. She was so close to him, she could feel the heat of his body. She could smell the powerful aroma of the lion. She was so close that when he reached up with his jaws to rend a piece of meat, she could reach out and pull the three whiskers. He shook his head and went back to eating. And she slowly backed away and backed away until she was far enough that she could turn and run straight back to the wise one. And I have those whiskers, she said. I have plucked the whiskers from a living lion. Said the wise one. Let me see. So the wise one took the whiskers. And how did you do this? Oh, the woman shared her whole strategy, how she had thought of it and how it had worked. And now, she said, now make the magic that will make my son love me. The wise one took the whiskers and threw them into the fire. What are you doing? What? Where's my magic? What are you doing? You're burning the whiskers. I said, well, in my opinion, a woman who can pull the whiskers from a living lion does not need magic to gain the love of a mere child. She thought of how she had approached the lion. She went home and she approached her son, little by little, day by day, small things, until one day she put food in front of him and he ate it. And one day she embroidered his robes and he wore them proudly. And one day when he was sad, he put his arms around her. And one day they walked through the village, her arm around his shoulders, his head leaning towards her. And she heard someone say, look at that. That boy lost his real mother, but he loves his stepmother as if she were his own. And so it was. I first told this story at a wildlife rehabilitation and rescue center, where we could stand, Patty and I, we could stand this far away, there's a fence, from the male lion they had there, and he was the type of lion you would have found in Ethiopia, with the blackish mane and the black fringe down his belly. And He did have a certain aroma. And when he roared, you could in fact hear that roar a mile away, and the ground under your feet vibrated. It was such a low roar. So I was drawn to this story also because it is in a very good book called Peace Tales. This is a book by a famous storyteller, Margaret Reed MacDonald, who did the Storyteller's Motifs Index. And these are stories that are designed for you to think about and talk about. And you can tell from this story that there is a lot to talk about in it. And people have approached the stories in many different ways. In Korea, it is a tiger whose whisker must be gotten. In South America, it is a mountain lion or a puma whose whisker must be gotten. But the heart of the story, it is always the same.